Hello friend, I want to tell you about the Renault Megane car. A decade ago, the choice of hot hatches on the European market was quite poor. Now you can choose from a variety of offers, and it is really hard to decide on a specific model. One of the more interesting offers is the Renault Megane RS. What to look for when buying a French racer. Used Renault Megane RS engines. Under the hood of all Renault Megane sports versions, the same 2-liter turbocharged petrol engine works, generating power from 224 to 230 horsepower. People who decide on a hot hatch usually know exactly what they want and do not consider other options. On the other hand, when buying such a car, you expect not only driving pleasure and good handling, but above all the best performance. Nobody wants to be overtaken at a traffic light by a luxury sedan or a family SUV with a diesel engine. Fortunately, in most cases, these types of cars will fall behind, because all the tuned versions of the Renault Megane RS reach the first 100 in just over 6 seconds, exactly in 6.4 to 6.6 seconds depending on power. How does the competition fare in this regard? On paper, the Ford Focus ST 6.8 seconds and Volkswagen Golf GTI 6.9 seconds are slightly worse, while similar acceleration is provided by the Honda Civic Type R 6.6 seconds, Mazda 3 MPS 6.6 seconds, and Opel Astra OPC 6.4 seconds. What fuel consumption should you expect when choosing such a car? Of course, most people who decide to buy the Megane RS will be happy with any fuel consumption, even the highest, but it's worth knowing a little about it before buying. Fuel consumption depends largely on driving style. Of course, economical drivers can easily get down to 12 to 13 L 100 kilometers in city traffic. Dynamic drivers can easily reach 20 L/100 kilometers. On the road, fuel consumption can range from 9 to 12 L 100 kilometers. Here again, it all depends on the intensity of using the accelerator pedal. As is well known, finding a used sports car is not easy. Although the engine in the French racer can be easily classified as a design that does not cause any major problems, due to user negligence, there are examples that are badly worn out and require a complete overhaul of the drive unit. There are cases of damage to various types of gaskets, valve covers, oil pans, intake manifolds, exhaust manifolds, or even cylinder head gaskets. In some cars, the fuel pump and, of course, the turbocharger also fail. Unfortunately, no car is immune to the sawing of an underheated engine or too frequent use of high RPMs. The front suspension of the car uses McPherson struts, and at the rear, unfortunately, a torsion beam. This solution significantly complicates the driver's work when overcoming tight bends at high speed. During everyday driving, this will not be too noticeable, but when you go to the track with aggressive driving, the rear wheels will lift off the ground. Safety? Few people pay attention to it in such a car, but Renault has made sure that it is at the highest level. In the Euro NCAP crash tests, the civilian version received a sensational result of 5 stars, used Renault Megane RS typical faults. Even if you drive slower from time to time, the high torque that these two components have to cope with will still contribute to the fact that you will eventually have to visit a mechanic and replace them. During the test drive, be sure to pay attention to whether the car does not stop, jerk, and the clutch does not slip. It is also worth visiting an authorized service station. In order to achieve the lowest possible weight, the manufacturer used lightweight plastic elements to build the body of the sports Renault. The result? The car does indeed weigh less, but restoring it to a usable state after collisions or accidents will no longer be as cheap as the civilian version. In addition to the bodywork, be sure to check the condition of the suspension before buying. After intensive use, you will probably need to replace not only the stabilizer links, but also rear beam cushions, axle support bearings, and even shock absorbers. Unfortunately, wheel bearings are not the most durable either. The rest of the problems that await you in the Renault Megane RS are typical faults from the civilian version. A faulty hands-free card, a central locking system that refuses to cooperate, electric windows that jam, or a radio that doesn't work are the norm. On the other hand, the onboard computer sometimes likes to display faults that aren't there. At higher mileages, the gear lever loses its precision. The French hot hatch has its flaws though. First of all, it will be hard to find a really well-maintained model. In addition, fuel consumption of 20 L 100 kilometers is a bit high, even for a turbocharged 2.0 L unit. The competition is more economical. In addition, there is a multitude of minor electronic faults. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I haven't mentioned, be sure to write about them in the comments.